Hi, this is Craig, and we're back in the shop today. I'm actually in a new shop. I moved all my machining and tooling equipment into actually a metal shop. So we have CNC machines all over the place, and this is more appropriate. We do have welding screens put up to protect the plasma from catching something else on fire. So we're taking our safety seriously. And I am working on a project for our garden. My wife wants me to make a giant sculpture of Jitterbug Perfume, which is a Tom Robbins book, and she crafted all the artwork for it, and I traced a bunch of JPEGs and brought them into Sheetcam and did my placement, and now I'm over on using fire control from Langmuir systems, and I have my Crossfire Pro here, and we are going to cut out some 16 gauge steel, and I will show you exactly what I'm working on. We'll go ahead and get this job started, and then I'll go ahead and give you an introduction of the project itself. So let's get started here. Here's our master drawing for this project. I drew this in Fusion 360. Everything is to scale. We brought in a bunch of JPEGs and got everything kind of positioned. There's a variety of shapes, large and small. Some of these are just duplicates of each other, and there's reflections. Some of these are very detailed. I was concerned that the plasma cutter wasn't going to be able to do the detail on the wings of the bees, as well as those petals and the jasmines in the center posts. These are the jasmines that are attached to the crown. All the uprights are made out of 2 and 1 inch square tubing. I welded them together. This is the first ladder. I used a flex core welder on it. Now the rightmost ladder won't actually fit under the awning of the house, so I had to cut it in half. So I'm using a vertical bandsaw in the old shop. And I basically cut that down in half, and I welded in some interior tabs, and that worked pretty well. Here's ladders 2 and 3. Like I said, I cut the right one in half, so this one fits together with a tab mechanism. I brought them home and I placed them onto the fence posts, and everything fit really well. And now we're on to making the sheet metal parts. Onto the metal supply yard, where I bought 4 sheets of 48 by 34 16 gauge. I brought in all the traced outlines into Sheetcam and placed them. This is the first sheet we're going to cut here. And right now I'm cutting out the waves. You can see that we've done a flame, some of the steam. We have a bee up there and a beet. And there is a pan right there. Here I am with Pan, and man, his armpits are smelly. Here's the first sheet, all the parts cut out. It all worked really well. Here's sheet number 2. So we have a jasmine, a crown, the infinity, and Electa sign. This turned out great. I'll show you some of the detail. So the plasma cutter did not have any problem getting the detail on the letters. And it got all the petals on these jasmine flowers. This was a happy day with the plasma cutter because everything worked really well. Here's sheet number 3. This is the remaining parts. So I thought we'll go ahead and blow through the thing really fast. I think the speed on this video here is about 20x, and you'll see why here. I do slow it down and kind of zoom in so you can see the cutting of the jasmine flowers. Taking the parts out of the cut sheets fairly easy. You just kind of pull it out. Some of the dross actually sticks together, so you just kind of pop it out. Since these are metal, I'm just tossing them right on the floor. And it's pretty quick. Here are all the pieces together, ready for a rework. I brought home the pieces for the left column when we did a dry fit to kind of see what it would look like. And it looks great. We are actually got more excited about the project when we saw it starting to take shape. Okay, it's time to clean up all the cut pieces, which means we need to knock the dross off of the backside. I'm using an angle grinder with a wire wheel. You basically work your way around and knock all the dross off. And that dross is actually metal, you're just whacking it off. And so eye protection is mandatory for this because that wire, those little pieces of dross pretty much go everywhere. And here are the wire wheels. I wore one down doing it. That's a brand new one there on the right. So you kind of get used to which side of the metal you want to knock the dross off of and the direction of the angle grinder. If you manage to hit the wrong side, you'll fling your piece right off the table. It all went pretty well, except for these pieces. There's so much dross on this this jasmine here that getting it off of all those petals, it took quite a bit of time to actually get that off of both pieces, because the sculpture uses two of these jasmine arrangements. But if you keep working, you get it all off. In this particular one, I'm going to go ahead and do the other side. All right, so these blue lines represent the posts. I got 3 beats and a spiral. I'm going to spot weld these things together using a TIG torch. I got the TIG set up to do 130 amps with a half-second pre-flow and a 2-second post-flow. And my tungsten is dull on this one side. I mean, this is the blunt end of the tungsten, and it's recessed into from my cup a little bit. And last time I figured out that we need to be on there for about 6 seconds and hold it on there during the post flow, and that does a pretty good job at spot welding these together. So let's see if this is going to work. All right, we'll do a little check here. Okay, those two are together. Here. The moment of truth. Oh, we got to redo 2 of them. With pretty good heat penetration up here, but not there and wherever they broke. So let's do it again. Might have been dirty underneath here, but doesn't matter. We'll hit it again. think I blew that one out. Yeah, I blew that one out. I blew this one through because it's a little. There's a little piece of metal. There's very little metal right here, so it heated up a lot more than it really needed to be. But it's together now. So there you have it. I'll just grind that off, and we will be good to go. So I'm going to continue on building the sculpture. Early on, I recognized that welding these pieces to the uprights was going to be problematic. So I fabricated a bunch of right angles and I tacked them to the backside of all the pieces. I ended up having to make these right angle brackets. And you can see here on one of the sheets, there's a series of little tiny rectangles with 2 circles in the middle. And I cut out, I don't know, maybe 25 or 30 of these things, and I bent them on a box and pan brake. And then I tacked them onto the backside of all the individual pieces. My wife went to Ace Hardware and bought a variety of pinks and paint colors, as well as a can of primer. She primered the majority of all the pieces, let that dry, and then she began to paint. And here's the first pass at one of the columns. And it ended up being too bright. So she mixed up a variety of colors and came up with a rust color and used a Scotch-Brite pad and applied a rust texturing to all the pieces to kind of give it a weathered, textured look. On Saturday morning, I started with the left column and began to attach the various pieces to the uprights. I got that done, and it turns out that the uprights are cold rolled steel, which is significantly harder than the rungs, and I ended up breaking about 4 drill bits getting these things drilled. I had an appointment at 3 o'clock, so I had to take a break there, and I got back around 6 o'clock and I worked on the right-hand column. And by the end of the right-hand column, I was so exhausted I could barely get off of my knees. But I was determined to get everything done on a Saturday. And at sunset on Saturday evening, the lighting was perfect to take a beautiful picture of the Jitterbug Perfume sculpture in our garden. Well, that wraps it up for the Jitterbug Perfume sculpture for our garden. I took this project on to actually build some skills that I didn't have before. I'll tell you what, a little bit of what those are. I used that horizontal bandsaw to cut some of those uprights for the ladders. I haven't used that before. I have an Everlast MIG torch over here, and I welded everything together with that. I've done a little bit of MIG welding, but not really much. And this thing works great. Put your filler wire in, get a gas tank, pull a trigger, and you're welding. And out of all those welds that I didn't blow through any of the metal, which is great. The real star of the project is this thing here. This is the Langmuir Systems Crossfire Pro. This CNC plasma table is awesome. We've done enough work with it now, with this project, that we are confident that we can take a design, run it through Sheetcam and put in the fire control, put your stock on here and cut out parts. It works awesome. I am extremely happy with this, and I'm also pleased with the quality of the Everlast welder that I have. In terms of doing other fabrication, I also use that welder as a spot welder, and I'm using the TIG function. That worked great. About, I'd say maybe 90% of those spot welds held firm when I was attaching them to the ladders, but a few of them did pop off, and I had to bring it back over and tack them again, as you saw in that one video, with the spiral being hooked onto the beats. That's just a matter of experience and kind of looking at the heat penetration. That's what I was able to kind of get more of an idea for, to find out if it was a reliable spot weld. I know that this reaction from the initial photographs that we took of the sculpture on the Tom Robbins page are been overwhelmingly positive, and I'm happy that a lot of people, this is maybe one of their favorite books, and to see this sculpture come to life in our garden is special for us, and as well as for them. So if you're here and you're one of the Tom Robbins fans, I'd like to thank you for watching. I don't know who Tom Robbins is, nor do I know any of his writings, but I am going to have to read the Jitterbug Perfume book now, because I fabricated with my wife a sculpture for the garden. All right. Anyway, that's all for now. Thanks for watching. If you like this, go ahead and give me the thumbs up, and we will see you on the next project.